The first time I saw the fear in Mara's eyes, I realized some people could smile so convincingly that the world would never suspect they were silently drowning. The message she sent me on that bright Tuesday morning was only 6 words long, but it turned my entire life upside down. Please. I have nowhere else to go. I stared at the screen for several minutes, unable to breathe. Mara wasn't just anyone. She was my ex-girlfriend's older sister. She was married. And the last person I ever expected to ask me for help. Before we continue, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Echo Tellies. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this to you every day. My name is Corwin Hale, and 3 years earlier I had promised myself I would never become involved with that family again. My relationship with my former girlfriend, Celine, had ended quietly but painfully. We simply wanted different futures. We parted respectfully, yet staying away from everyone connected to that chapter of my life had become the only way I knew how to heal. Mara had always been different from the rest of her family. She was gentle without being weak, thoughtful without expecting praise, and she carried herself with a calmness that made everyone around her feel safe. When she married Nolan Pierce, everyone believed she had found happiness. Nolan owned a successful construction business, drove expensive cars, donated to charities, and smiled for every camera that pointed his way. From the outside, he looked like the perfect husband, but appearances can become beautiful prisons. When I finally agreed to meet Mara, it was broad daylight in a quiet botanical garden where families walked among blooming flowers and children chased butterflies across freshly cut grass. Even surrounded by sunshine, she looked like someone trapped beneath a storm cloud. Dark circles rested under her eyes, and the smile she tried to wear collapsed after only a few seconds. She didn't ask me to run away because she loved me. She asked because I was the only person she believed would listen without judging her. Her husband had spent years isolating her from friends, controlling every dollar she spent, checking her phone, deciding where she could go, and convincing everyone that any sadness she showed was simply anxiety. Behind closed doors, he never needed to leave bruises. His words alone were enough to destroy her confidence piece by piece. She confessed that she had secretly saved a small amount of money over 2 years. She had planned to disappear quietly, rent a small apartment, and begin rebuilding her life. But Nolan had discovered hints of her plan. He hadn't found the money, but he had become suspicious. Every day his anger grew worse. She asked if I would drive her to another city where an old college friend had offered temporary shelter that I wanted to refuse, not because I didn't care, because I knew helping her would invite danger into my own life. Still, when someone looks at you with the desperate hope of a drowning person reaching for shore, saying no becomes almost impossible. The following Saturday arrived with bright sunshine and clear blue skies that mocked the tension in my chest. Everything about the day appeared peaceful. Birds filled the air with cheerful songs while people carried shopping bags through downtown streets. No one could have guessed that inside my aging pickup truck sat a woman trying to escape years of emotional captivity. For the first hour, neither of us spoke very much. She simply watched the landscape roll past the windows, as though freedom looked exactly like endless roads disappearing beneath afternoon sunlight. Then my phone rang. The number was unknown. When I answered, a cold voice immediately filled the truck. Nolan. That he didn't scream, that he didn't curse. His calmness frightened me more than rage ever could. That he knew Mara was with me. That he described my truck in perfect detail. That he even mentioned the gas station where we had stopped 20 minutes earlier. That meant someone had been watching us. That he warned me that if I continued driving, both of us would regret it for the rest of our lives. After the call ended, silence swallowed the truck. Mara quietly admitted she had expected something like this. Nolan always found ways to make people believe he controlled every outcome. For several terrifying miles, I considered turning around. Fear is persuasive. It convinces ordinary people that doing nothing is the safest decision. But then I looked at Mara. Not once had she asked me to fight her battles. She had only asked for one chance to choose her own future. That was something every human being deserved. Instead of taking the highway Nolan expected, I turned onto smaller country roads winding through fields glowing beneath the afternoon sun. The drive became longer, but it also made us harder to follow. Hours later we reached the modest home of Mara's former roommate, Ivy Rowan, who welcomed her without hesitation. The house wasn't luxurious. Paint peeled from parts of the porch, and flowers grew wildly along the walkway. Yet it felt warmer than any mansion Nolan owned. For the first time that day, Mara smiled without forcing it. The following weeks were anything but peaceful. Nolan flooded my phone with threatening messages, anonymous accounts spread lies online claiming I had destroyed a marriage, some of my co-workers questioned my character after hearing twisted rumors, even strangers judged me without asking for the truth. There were nights when I wondered whether helping Mara had ruined my own future. Then one afternoon she called, not to ask for more help, not to cry, simply to say thank you. She had found part-time work at a neighborhood library, she had begun attending counseling. For the first time in years, she slept through an entire night without waking in fear. Those simple victories reminded me why compassion matters. Several months later, Nolan's carefully constructed image finally collapsed. Financial investigations uncovered fraud inside his company, while former employees came forward describing years of intimidation and manipulation. As more people spoke honestly, the version of himself he had spent years protecting slowly disappeared. Mara never celebrated his downfall. She simply continued building her own life. That was the greatest victory of all. A year passed. One sunny afternoon I visited the same botanical garden where everything had begun. Families laughed beneath flowering trees. Children chased colorful kites through the open fields. Life continued moving forward, just as it always does. Mara met me there carrying several books beneath one arm. She looked healthier, stronger, and lighter than I had ever seen her. The fear that once lived in her eyes had been replaced by quiet confidence. She had completed counseling, she had rented her own apartment, she had enrolled in evening classes to become a social worker because she wanted to help others escape situations like the one she survived. Watching her walk confidently beneath the bright afternoon sun, I realized courage doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes courage is simply refusing to give up one more day, sometimes it is asking for help after believing nobody will listen, sometimes it is choosing kindness even after life has shown you cruelty. Before we finish, here's a special request. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness gives hope," if you believe one act of compassion can change someone's entire future. We'd love to read your thoughts. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking this video, sharing it with friends and family, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing to Echo Tellies. Your support allows these stories of hope, healing, and second chances to reach people who may need them most. I often think back to that first message that arrived on an ordinary Tuesday morning. 6 simple words changed 2 lives forever. They reminded me that heroes are rarely people wearing uniforms or standing beneath bright lights. More often, they are ordinary people who choose compassion when fear tells them to walk away. We may never know how deeply one decision can affect another person's future, but every act of kindness plants a seed of hope. Sometimes that seed grows into a brand new beginning. And sometimes, it becomes the reason someone believes tomorrow is worth facing. In a world filled with noise, judgment, and fear, choosing to help another person may be the quietest act imaginable, yet it echoes the longest. That is the lesson Mara carried into her new life, and it is the lesson I hope none of us ever forget.